Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks with ADSR, and you are checking out a first look video where we're going to be looking at a brand new synthesizer called Zone. Zone is made by a new company called Audiaire. Now, Zone is a really cool, creative, virtual analog, subtractive synthesizer. So it does come with more waveforms than your typical saw, sine, square, pulse, etc. But we'll get to that a little bit later. But Zone does some things that is very creative, very unique, and you truly won't find these features or these ways to manipulate and mangle sounds inside of other synths. So if you guys have ever heard this expression, you can be the first to do it, you can be the best to do it, or you can do it differently. That's kind of like how some people look at how you can do things successfully. And it's in this world, creating plugins and synths, I think it really rings true, right? If we have 10 synths that do exactly what Serum does, people will just use Serum, right? Because it was the first to do it. It's not until someone comes along, like look at Massive, right? Everyone used Massive, then Serum came out and it slowly, well, not that slowly, but overtook Massive in terms of popularity because it did things differently and it did things better, right? It wasn't the first to do it, but it reinvented the wheel. So a lot of developers try to reinvent the wheel when they make new synths, and usually it kind of come off as, a lot of times it can come off as a gimmick. Well, Zone offers a really unique way to manipulate your sound. And it's this section right here. So I'm going to talk about this section, then we're going to do a quick overview of the synth, and then I'm going to play some presets. So this section right here might look like there's 4 step sequencers right now. Well, these aren't step sequencers by nature. They're actually parameter sequencers. You can use them like a step sequencer if you modulate your pitch, but you can use these to add movement, add depth, add rhythmic effects to any parameter in the synth. So there's 4 on the screen right now, but there can be a lot more, right? So you can click on this and you can draw your own shape. There are even presets that you can use and load up, right? So we'll throw in a preset here. And what you can do is you can pretty much drag and drop any parameter in the synth onto one of these lanes, these parameter sequencer lanes. So it's kind of like modulation, but it's a little bit different. Instead of taking the parameter lane and dragging it onto a parameter, or the parameter sequencer and dragging it onto things like cutoff or your shape, etc., you do it the inverse, and I actually really like it. So watch, if I hover over cutoff, it becomes, now I can drag and drop this onto a macro or onto one of the lanes. So now our cutoff is being controlled by this lane. So let's add some voices of unison. Right? And you can go in and you can change the timing of everything, and you can get real creative with these. They can be subtle or they can be extreme, right? Right? That's real slow. So let's speed her up. So there's tons of controls, right, for controlling like how much of the effect you hear, etc. But that's kind of the idea with Zone, is that you can just start taking things and actually applying movement to it. Now, it doesn't need to be this constant, upward linear thing. You could just add a little bit of movement here and there, right? Or a little bit of difference, a little bit of subtleness. And that's what I like about Zone, is they took the idea of basically adding these kind of like the devil, it's in the details, right? When you're making really cool patches. And this allows you to do some really interesting things in a very detailed oriented manner. So think about how like it's pretty common to modulate certain things in a synth, like velocity sensitivity, fine pitch, have some like note on random things going on, just so the patch isn't as sterile. It's not as digital, right? Because that kind of sounds unnatural to our ears. Zone offers an amazing way to do that with these parameter sequencers, right? So let's go up and load the default patch again. And we're going to do a quick walkthrough of some of the features so you know what's going on. So at its core, outside of the parameter sequencer, it is a very feature-rich subtractive synthesizer. Now, you have 2 oscillators, oscillator 1, oscillator 2. They're identical. And they're going to load up waveforms, not wavetables. It's not a wavetable synth. It's going to have your classic virtual analog waveforms and then all these unique waveforms. You can even import your own waveforms. They just have to be single cycle. So you can actually customize, your content for creating sounds. So the oscillators, a bunch of cool categories, right? You have things like instruments, lead, modular, synth, vocal. Load that up, turn off oscillator 2. You have a shape control, which kind of bends and warps the waves. Right, right? So you can definitely do your whole, you can get the wavetable type movement to the sound. It's not just a static waveform. Now there's tons of different waves. I won't have time to obviously go through them all, but they are really, so there's some really interesting ones. The modular ones are pretty cool. They're taken from modular synths, obviously. So we'll try this one. Right, now you even have some sync. So making any type of aggressive, bass music, dubstep, trap sound, you can definitely do inside a Zone. So at its core, feature-rich, 2-oscillator, subtractive synthesizer with a host of waveforms, and you can use your own waveforms. Now, you even have a bunch of oscillator modulations, things like FM, distortion, just basically different warp modes that you can apply to this, right? So if we load up the distortion, also, what I really like about Zone is it's all on one page. There's only a few tabs to go through. And they, for instance, one of my biggest gripes with Silent has always been that you have to select things in a drop-down menu. Well, you saw me just scrolling through these different distortion types. I can just click hold with my mouse and drag up or down. And that makes it easier to find the one I want as opposed to having to go, okay, let's try this guy. No, let's try this guy now. And that's how you have to do it in some sense, and I don't like that. You can do that with the oscillators too. You can actually change the waveform. Right? So you could actually hit play on your track, right? And easily move through multiple waveforms without having to go drop down menu and select things. Makes a real easy way to find the perfect starting point for your sounds. So that's kind of its feature, it's the main features, the core of its engine, generating your typical synth sounds. But when you couple those elements, those ideas, these well put together, oscillators with oscillator modulations with the parameter sequencers, you get some crazy cool stuff. So there's also, before we go on, there's the sub oscillator and a noise oscillator as well. So you do have 4 total oscillators, but 2 main oscillators. Now the filter section, you get 1 filter. Kind of wish you had more than 1 filter, but that seems to be where some synths are going these days. I'm not sure why, but there's some interesting filter types. This phaser, C-bent, you have some combs, a couple comb filters. So it's not just, your basic high pass, low pass, band pass. So the filters sound great too. The low passes sound really good. No aliasing that I've heard, really high quality stuff. And then the effects. There are a bunch of effects. You can load up 4 effects onto any patch inside a Zone, and you can control them by just selecting any of the effects that you want. And then you have 3 controls for each effect, so it's pretty easy once you get integrated into the ecosystem. There is a EQ right before the master output. Love, love, love it when synths do this. I don't know why it's not just a thing they do, and why you need to use an effect insert basically just to clean up a sound. It's never made sense to me, because I could technically do it with a filter, right? But this is great. So if you have too much high in your sound, your bass patch, or the inverse, too much low in your sound, so lead, you can cut it in the synth, so you don't have to load up an EQ and do that whole dance. All right, so that's the idea of the synth. You have a couple LFO oscillators, as well as you have 8 modulation matrices, I think that's the right word, where you can have your modulation. All right, so let's check out some of the presets and talk about the parameter sequence. So I'm going to go to the best of. Let's see what the best of has to offer here. All right, so you can see that we have these different parameter lanes, these different lanes with these different parameter sequences. We have mod amount, FX, oscillators you find, right? It's very subtle on some of these, right? If we look at this on the big version, very subtle. So these don't have to be like, oh, you can create rhythmic motions. No, you can make the synth patches sound really lush, really real, and very analog, actually. Got a nice bass patch. Now you can see this one hardly has any, right? There's a little bit of movement here and there. Every synth has to have that sound now. I feel like the Stranger Things guys should definitely pick this synth up, right? Like this is a scene in Stranger Things right now. Just boom. This kid's up to no good. So yeah, that's lots of cool sequences in this synth. This patch is called Bruh. I don't know why I like that so much, but yeah, you can see the wide range of sounds here. Got your modular little blips and beeps. I don't know why this. If anyone in the comments can tell me why this form of synthesis is so popular, I don't get it. I just hear it. I'm like, it's cool, but I don't know. It's interesting. There's a lot of people who are very passionate about it. I want to understand. It's like the first time I heard jazz. It's like, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, so let's check out more patches. Lots of cool sequences in this. Nice chord sound. All right, so let's get out of the best of and let's go check out some of the basses. All right, so it's got a really nice quality of sound to it. I mean, I've liked most of these I've played, which is cool. They seem production ready. So this is a good example of not every patch, in Zone to sound good has to make use of, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parameter sequencers. It can just actually be used as a synth and it still sounds good. That was a crazy sound. It's a huge range of sound. The pads I really like. I'm a big proponent in motion in pads. Usually makes a pad sound way more interesting, way more unique. So Zone is a great synth for creating cool, lush, ethereal, moving pads. So I really like that one. Here's one with tons of parameter lanes. Ugh. That one is sweet. Imagine an 808 with a nasty bass line in that. Yeah, so it's the pads. I love the pads in Zone. All right, so I'm going to stop playing the presets now because if I keep going, this video is going to get way too long. But you guys can obviously hear and see that Zone's a powerful synth. It's easy to use, sounds cool, sounds great, and there's a lot of creative possibility and potential with the parameter sequencers. So if you guys have any questions or comments, post those below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit that like and subscribe button. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm Echo Soundworks. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you next time.